Alright, I would almost never one-take this, but I got some stuff I gotta do, and I wanted to share with you guys my build. So I'm playing a cast on crit league starter for Endless Delve. I decided to stop memeing around on Chieftain, which I do think is good actually. I do think it's much more consistent than this build. But I decided to play a CoC Eye winner Deadeye. And it's basically because I can use this dagger that you get at level 1 with a base crit of 12. And it's insane. It's called Fragment of a Journey. I'm gonna die. But I'm playing this literally in SSF hardcore right now. And this build's just absolutely cracked, man. I did not expect to have enough damage. I didn't expect to have the survivability. But I came up with it last night, and it ends up having something like 140k EHP. And it's crazy fast, it's got really nice clear. And the short form is, I'm basically using Spectral Helix to trigger cast on crit. Now, other people go Lancing Steel or Cyclone on cast on crit builds, but the reason I'm going Spectral Helix is because, 1, Cyclone doesn't maintain your Tailwind stacks. And 2, you can't actually use Lancing Steel because this is a dagger. It's on a sword. Other things about this build include how I leveled, I guess, and I did that as a Shattering Steel build, and then I went into the Helix at level 12, and then at level 40-ish, I transitioned into this build. And because at level 40, I was able to take Eldritch Battery. Prior to that, though, you can pretty much level as any projectile-based skills. You're pretty much only taking projectile nodes anyway. The single target looks really weak on the POV, but I estimate it to be around 2 million with, I would say like day 3, day 4 Delve gear. And you can see right now, I'm like level 62. I was pushing ladder, top 20, top 10 for, the first 3 hours of this league. And I expect this build to go pretty far. Other things in this build, you basically want to get a lot of evasion and energy shield gear. So I have it here. The rest of the stuff is pretty scuffed. And then the key things about this build are running Grace and Purity of Elements. Purity of Elements is really important in Endless Delve. It gives you element immunity, which you don't get otherwise. And then you have to run Precision, because you do lack accuracy. Eventually, I'm going to be taking this cluster, and that will give me enough reservation to run Herald of Ice as well. Other important thing is this node right here. The Elemental Mastery gives you Elemental Damage Leech as ES, and also the Suppression here. Without these two nodes at this ES level, you won't have enough to sustain. I'm on a 4-link right now. Eye of Winter, Spectral Helix, cast on crit, and increase crit strikes. It is crazy how easy it is to cap crit on this build. I'm literally almost doing it right now. And the lingering projectiles of Spectral Helix means that this is always hitting. Into the end game, I go with a slightly different setup. And as I get a 6th link, my 5th link will be Inspiration. And then my 6th link, I actually plan to use Spark. This is actually much better. I'm able to use increased crit damage later as I get Inspiration because you do hit the crit cap without using increased crit strikes on your attacks. Additionally, you want to get an Assassin's Mark on hit ring. And this will really help because it will trigger this thing, Focal Point, which gives, yes, the damage is great, but mostly the 25% less damage taken from other enemies near a marked enemy. Now, Delve is a lot of multi-mob stuff, so this node is extremely valuable. Ricochet is the first node that you take, and this is what makes the whole build come together. Every single Eye of Winter build wants to get some sort of chain. Now, without Snake Pit and Gloomfang easily accessible, Ricochet is the easiest way to do this. I go for Gathering Wind second. I'd go for Focal Point third, probably. And finally, Endless Munitions just gives you a little bit of damage. I think Wind Ward is horrible. You lose this all the time. Don't take this. The endgame gear is slightly different. I think I'd go with probably a good Rare Shield, but everything else is just really basic gear. A Quartz Flask is very important, and this build ends up getting, 100% spell suppression because of the gear type and the tree choices. It gets a decent amount of evasion, and you can see the EHP here is crazy. Don't be fooled by this number. You just have a much higher trigger rate than POV is actually anticipating, so I expect this to be around 1.5 mil with this level of gear, and then with a 21 Eye of Winter, and your Aura's leveled up, your Herald of Ice leveled up, and maybe a bit of multi on your gear, you're easily hitting 2 million DPS, which is more than enough for Delve. I'm going to be playing it more tomorrow. Maybe I'll die, maybe I won't. But right now, a hardcore SSF cast on crit Ranger League starter, man, you ain't never heard of this shit before.